Hello everyone, Prez here. Now that Kingdom Hearts 3 has been out for about a week, and I've had time to digest and process the whole game, I'd like to give my thoughts on the matter. So let's get right to it. From the moment they announced the additions for the game, I felt a mix of anticipation and apprehension. For such a largely anticipated game to lack a proper collector's edition sent up red flags in my head, so I opted for the deluxe in turn. When it finally came time for the unboxing, the art book and steelbook caught my eye immediately. Particularly the inner design of the steelbook, once opened, was truly a spectacle. I loaded up the disc and waited only for a few minutes for it to finish installing. I went into this game with a particular thought. This game has a legacy spanning nearly 2 decades. Is that something it can handle? Is it self-aware of that fact? Soon the opening video played, an incredible recap of past events tied neatly together with fantastic musical scores, leading to a beautifully sketched artwork imprinting itself on the main title screen. I ended up sitting there for a few minutes just listening to the title music, utterly captivated as it roared to a crescendo. As I scrolled through the title options, I noted the memory archives, short, sweet little storybook recaps of the story thus far. Though missing very important details, it was a nice intro, which could also be found on the Kingdom Hearts official YouTube channel. As I began my journey, the opening cinematic played, and it felt utterly final. The game makes no qualms about understanding that this is the end, and there was in fact a journey that led to this moment. It tried its best to come across in a manner to suggest that it was open to new players, but that the best experience comes from enjoying the journey up to this point. Once I actually started into the gameplay, there was a few things of immediate note. The character models are visually stunning, nearly identical to cutscene sequences. Visually, this game is an experience. It takes so much care into putting detail and structure into the worlds that you go to. The feeling of being this giant open universe but carefully guiding you on levels that are linear but in an entrancing way. Creativity abounds from the get-go, with the theme of remember and being self-aware of the journey thus far put forth by a creative sequence of 2 opening choices. Particularly their member-like presentation really does implant itself in the mind and gives a great sense of tone. As I dove into combat, it felt gripping, though admittedly somewhat floaty due to Sora's aerial tendencies and abilities, but fast-paced and ultimately satisfying with proper execution of cinematic effects. One of this game's newest strengths is the variability in traversal options. From parkour like wall running, air dashing and railgunning and more, these options make you want to try out new combinations in the middle of battle. Thankfully, unlike other games, Sora starts with a myriad of decent abilities giving players interesting variety choices off the bat. Team attacks, attractions, and other skills create a spectacle on screen of accessible moves from an aesthetically pleasing command menu, and the command menu's design changes with the world you're in. Extra details like environmental interactions and charming effects like Sora jumping up and fanning his clothes when he's on fire, or enemies getting knocked into walls and making a cartoony splat-like scene, make the gameplay even more enjoyable even as just an observer. Characters, including villains, seem more charismatic than ever. It's evident a great deal of care went into replicating movie moments and characteristics, more so than ever before. In earlier entries, it sometimes felt like Sora was forced into interactions in these worlds, where this time around he seems to just fit in through well-defined interactions. These interactions are also well placed due to levels having a clear sense of direction and can invoke a sense of urgency that the story sometimes demands at appropriate moments. It took a long time, but Sora finally feels like a capable hero. Someone who can do this, someone who has done this. This feeling really shines through in his boss fight moments, monumental cinematic clashes that make the player feel empowered through their interactions. A summary of the pros of this game would be that it's a tremendous addition to the series as a whole. While it does try to be more accessible than previous titles, it still makes no qualms about saying that this is the finale to a long story. Gameplay is captivating and fun, worlds are decorative and memorable, and characters jump back from nostalgic memories to modern day with triumph and fanfare. The game is by no means a perfect piece though. For example, though the story does try to be welcoming of new players, by spoon-feeding flashback summaries when certain events come up, they can by no means cover all important events or characters, and definitely contain points for new players that will make absolutely no sense. I'm looking at you specifically, Union Cross. Another issue is the endgame pacing. After the final Disney World, the game just goes, non-stop, straight to the end. As this happens, the story tries to wrap up multiple storyline threads throughout the series and characters, and honestly, though significant, the delivery and location in particular for these sentiments leave much to be desired. Is it handled well? Yes, but it could have clearly been much better. Speaking of Disney, this series was originally a mix of Final Fantasy and Disney. However, there is zero sign of any Final Fantasy characters. Just Easter eggs for things like character pictures. I don't know what happened there, but it was a bit disheartening not to be able to have an epic battle with Sephiroth or see a newer face like Noctis. It just seems like missed potential. The game also definitely did not escape its development hell unscratched. There's a few characters who were voiced in previous games that don't have any voice lines at all this time around. Though these aren't core characters to the cast, it still comes across as loss. One other issue I have is the lack of reaction commands for boss fights. Reaction commands helped make the fights feel far more epic and cinematic in the past, and I understand with all the new mechanics like Keyblade transformations and attractions that they balance the game towards those controls. It's just a personal peeve more than anything. I still feel as though Sora's greatest moveset for combos was the one he had by the end of Kingdom Hearts 2. And speaking of attractions, their presence is never really explained. How and why does Sora have all the mighty power of a family amusement park weaponized? Speaking of missed opportunity, the way the game teases you with small fights where you can try out other characters, I feel these moments could have been expanded upon, and more time with these other characters and their movesets could have gone a long way for setting tone and diversifying gameplay. I mean, Kairi in particular seems like such a waste of great character potential. She should have got a chance to truly shine this time around, but I don't feel like that really happened. Admittedly, I am also a tad bit bitter that my favorite character Axel didn't get as much screen time as I'd like. Now, I'm gonna just make a note concerning the Ultima weapon for players. It's incredible. Like, too incredible. It's the closest thing you'll find to a final form with an amazing, stylish moveset and overall beautiful design. It only has two drawbacks. Firstly, it is super tedious to get. It took me an additional 2 days of grinding just for that one weapon before I decided to finish the game, as it was locked behind a myriad of collectibles, challenges, and minigames. Side note, who hid those emblems? Those were way too difficult to find, like damn. You will not find all of them casually, you have to be actively searching with an open mind. Every area of the game. The other issue with Ultima is it definitely nerfs the difficulty. In exchange for this weapon and the time you put in to get it, you'll lose most sense of challenge or difficulty. It's definitely better for a second playthrough or a proud mode playthrough. My final thoughts on the game are that it is an overall excellent and fantastic entry, but filled with missed opportunities from its long development history. My final score is 9 out of 10. It's just short of all it could have been, but remains a definite, worthwhile experience. Now, I just want everyone to keep in mind that this was my opinion of the game, and you're welcome to have your own. In fact, I encourage a discussion down in the comment section. I'll be looking through it myself, and I'm really interested to see how you guys feel about the game. Did it meet your expectations, exceed them? What were some things you think could have been improved or better about it? Let's have a discussion about it, and we'll see you next time.